The first rule of galactic diplomacy, as Commander Vex Thoriel had learned over his 300 cycles of service, was simple. Never, under any circumstances, bring humans to a sacred site. The second rule: if you absolutely must bring humans to a sacred site, keep them away from anything that glows, hums, or has been sitting untouched for more than a millennium. He was currently breaking both rules. I must insist. Vex Thoriel clicked through his translator, his 4 eye stalks swiveling nervously between the human delegation and the towering obsidian structure before them. This is the vault of whispered eternities. It has remained sealed for 6,000 standard years. Perhaps we should schedule a more formal viewing? Ambassador Marcus Webb, a broad-shouldered human with graying hair and an unsettling smile, clapped one meaty hand on Vex Thoriel's carapace. The commander suppressed a flinch. Humans and their constant need for physical contact. Barbaric. Relax, Vex. We're just here to observe. Cultural exchange, remember? The treaty your council signed specifically mentioned sharing historical sites. Webb gestured broadly at the massive doors carved with symbols that predated most spacefaring civilizations. Besides, we brought proper supervision. Vex Thoriel's eye stalks drooped. Yes, they had brought supervision. Dr. Elena Vasquez, an archaeologist who seemed more interested in her datapad than the priceless artifacts surrounding them. Lieutenant James Morrison, a military escort, who was currently examining the ancient pillars like he was pricing furniture. And the child. By the 17 spheres, why did they bring the child? Mr. Webb. Vex Thoriel tried again, his translator adding a pleading harmonic. I see you have brought your offspring. While we appreciate family values, this site contains artifacts of immense power and cultural significance to 17 different species. Perhaps the young one would prefer to wait at the shuttle? The young one in question, a girl of perhaps 8 standard years named Lily Webb, was currently spinning in circles while humming something that hurt Vex Thoriel's acoustic sensors. She had bright red hair pulled into 2 side ponytails and wore what humans called a t-shirt, bearing the image of some earth creature labeled honey badger. Lily's fine, Webb said dismissively. She's mature for her age. Aren't you, sweetie? Lily stopped spinning long enough to stick her tongue out at a nearby statue of the progenitor Queen Cathara. The statue, according to legend, would curse anyone who showed disrespect to her likeness. Nothing happened, of course. Legends were just legends. Vex Thoriel made an internal note to update his insurance policy. The massive doors groaned open, ancient mechanisms still functioning after millennia. The sound echoed through the canyon, and for a moment, Vex Thoriel felt the weight of history pressing down on his carapace. This was it, the inner sanctum, where the ancients had left their greatest works before ascending to whatever fate awaited. Transcendent beings. The chamber beyond was vast, easily the size of a small starship hangar. Floating platforms hovered at various heights, defying physics in ways that made Dr. Vasquez finally look up from her datapad. In the center of the room, on a raised dais, sat the sphere of eternal contemplation. It was beautiful. Roughly 2 meters in diameter, the sphere seemed to be made of solidified starlight, shifting through colors that had no names in any known language. Soft pulses of energy radiated from its surface, and Vex Thoriel could feel something tugging at the edges of his consciousness. A whisper. A promise. A warning. Now that, Morrison said, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm, is ominous. It is sacred, Vex Thoriel corrected, moving to position himself between the humans and the sphere. According to the texts, the sphere contains the collected wisdom of the progenitor species. It has been untouched since they vanished. 17 different civilizations have sent their greatest scholars to study it. None have dared make physical contact. Why not? Dr. Vasquez asked, her scientific curiosity finally engaged. Because, Vex Thoriel said slowly, the last person who touched it was High Mystic Zorathian of the Sixth Circle. He was considered the most powerful psionic mind in the known galaxy. What happened to him? His atoms were scattered across 17 different dimensions. It took 3 months to collect enough of him for a funeral. He spent most of that time screaming across subspace. The humans exchanged glances. Good. Perhaps they were finally understanding the gravity of the situation. Lily had wandered off to look at a wall covered in glowing symbols. "Lily," Ambassador Webb called, but without any real urgency. "Stay where we can see you, please." "But Dad, these are like the pictures on your office wall. The squiggly ones." Webb chuckled. "She means the reproduction I have of early progenitor script." Smart kid, spotting the similarity. Vex Thoriel was impressed despite himself. The child had correctly identified proto-symbolic matrix notation, which most xenolinguists required decades to recognize. Still, this did not make him feel better about the situation. "Doctor." Vasquez approached the sphere, maintaining a respectful distance. "The energy readings are incredible. It is almost like it is alive, responding to our presence." "Because it is," Vex Thoriel confirmed. "The sphere is believed to be semi-sentient, capable of judging the worth of those who approach it. This is why we do not touch it. Ever. Under any circumstances. Are we clear on this point?" "Crystal," Webb said. But he was not looking at Vex Thoriel. He was staring at the sphere with an expression the commander had seen before. Humans called it ambition. Everyone else called it the look that preceded terrible decisions. "Commander," Morrison said suddenly, his military training picking up on something. "Where is the kid?" All four of Vex Thoriel's eye stalks snapped around in different directions, scanning the chamber. No small human with red hair. No humming. No spinning. "Lily!" Webb shouted, his voice bouncing off the ancient walls. "Up here!" They all looked up. Somehow, impossibly, the child had climbed onto one of the floating platforms. She was now about 20 feet above the ground, standing next to what appeared to be a smaller, secondary artifact. A honey-colored orb about the size of a human fist, sitting in a depression clearly designed to hold it. "By the 17 spheres," Vex Thoriel breathed. "The shard of persistence. I did not even know it was stored here." "What does it do, Doctor?" Vasquez asked, already pulling out her scanning equipment. "We do not know. The texts only mention it in passing, always with the same warning. It is not to be disturbed." "Lily," Webb said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Honey, I need you to step away from the shiny thing. Come back to the platform we are on." "But it is warm, Dad. Like when Mittens sits in the sun." "That is wonderful, sweetie. But you need to come down now." Lily reached out toward the orb. "Do not touch it." Vex Thoriel, Webb, Morrison, and Vasquez all screamed simultaneously. Lily, displaying the legendary hearing selective deafness that all human children apparently possessed, touched it anyway. The reaction was immediate. The honey-colored orb flared with golden light, and energy ripped through the chamber like a shockwave. Vex Thoriel felt his carapace plates rattle. The main sphere in the center of the room responded, its gentle pulses becoming violent strobes of multicolored light, and then the screaming started. Not from Lily, which would have been expected and concerning. No. The screaming came from everywhere and nowhere, echoing through dimensions Vex Thoriel could not fully perceive. It was the sound of something ancient waking up, something that had been sleeping for a very, very long time. The golden light from the orb shot down and struck the main sphere. The sphere of eternal contemplation cracked, not shattered, but cracked, with geometric precision, splitting into 7 perfect segments that began to rotate around a now visible core of pure, condensed darkness. "Oh, Doctor," Vasquez said faintly. "That seems bad." "Everyone out," Vex Thoriel commanded, his translator adding every possible emergency harmonic. "The vault is compromised." Morrison grabbed Dr. Vasquez and started pulling her toward the exit. Webb was already running for the platform Lily was on, but the floating platforms had begun to move, rearranging themselves in some pattern that hurt to look at. And then the darkness at the center of the sphere spoke. It did not use sound, it did not use thought. It used something far more primal, pressing directly into the consciousness of every being in the chamber. Who dares break the seal? Lily, still standing on her platform and still holding the honey-colored orb, looked down at the writhing mass of cosmic darkness and tilted her head. Are you supposed to be in there? The darkness paused. If something without form could seem confused, it managed it. What manner of creature are you? I am Lily. I am 8. What are you? I am the forgotten wrath. I am the price of hubris. I am the reason the progenitors fled to higher dimensions. And you, small thing, have freed me. Oh, Lily said. Sorry about that. My dad says I should not touch stuff without asking first. Vex Thoriel could not believe what he was witnessing. The child was having a conversation with a cosmic horror. Worse, the cosmic horror was having a conversation back. Your apology is noted but insufficient. I have been imprisoned for 6,000 cycles. Civilizations will burn. Worlds will crack. The very fabric of reality will bend to my will. That sounds mean. It is the natural order. The strong dominate. The weak perish. Lily considered this for a moment, then looked down at her shirt. My shirt says honey badgers do not care about stuff like that. They just do what they want. What is a honey badger? And that was when everything went completely sideways. The air in the chamber shifted. It was subtle at first, like a change in air pressure before a storm. But Vex Thoriel, who had spent 3 centuries in military service, recognized the sensation immediately. It was the feeling of predator attention. The universe itself was taking notice of something. A honey badger, Lily explained with the patient tone of a child educating an adult, is like a really tough animal from Earth. They fight snakes and lions and stuff, and they do not care about anything. My teacher said they have skins so thick that bee stings and porcupine quills cannot hurt them. They are like little tanks with attitude. This is irrelevant to my emergence. Is it though? Lily asked. Then she did something that made Vex Thoriel's 3 hearts stop simultaneously. She jumped off the platform. Webb screamed. Morrison lunged forward. Dr. Vasquez made a sound like a dying vortex generator. Lily fell 20 feet and landed directly on top of the cracked sphere. The forgotten wrath recoiled. What are you doing? Getting a closer look? Lily said, peering into one of the cracks. You are actually pretty cool looking, like space jelly. The darkness solidified slightly, forming something approximating a face. Multiple eyes opened in the void, each one burning with the fires of dead suns. You dare mock me? I am not mocking. I just think you are neat. But you cannot go around breaking worlds and stuff. That is not nice. Nice is for the weak. My mom says being nice takes more strength than being mean. She is a doctor. She helps sick people even when they are grumpy. Vex Thoriel watched in absolute horror as the child proceeded to lecture an ancient cosmic entity on basic morality. This was not happening. This could not be happening. The diplomatic incident forms alone would take years to fill out. The forgotten wrath seemed equally baffled. Child, you do not understand. I am beyond your comprehension. I exist in 17 dimensions. I have consumed stars. I have unraveled the threads of causality itself. That sounds lonely. Silence. The kind of silence that happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable innocence. What? Being all-powerful and alone in a sphere for 6,000 years. That sounds really lonely. Were you always mean, or did being stuck make you that way? The darkness flickered. For just a moment, something like confusion passed through the cosmic horror. I do not. That is not. And then, something else entered the chamber. The temperature dropped 40 degrees in an instant. Frost formed on the ancient walls. Every alarm in Vex Thoriel's implants started screaming at once. Morrison's hand was on his weapon, but the lieutenant had the good sense not to draw it. Dr. Vasquez was pointing her scanner at empty air, and the readings she was getting made her go very, very pale. Something was materializing in the doorway. Something that moved wrong, existed wrong, breathed wrong. It was roughly humanoid in shape but translated through a lens of pure, distilled violence. Claws that could rend reality. Teeth that could bite through dimensions. Eyes that had seen the death of galaxies and found it mildly interesting. Webb, who had been trying to reach his daughter, froze in place. What in the name of all that is holy is that? Vex Thoriel knew what it was. He had heard stories, whispered in the deep void stations where veteran soldiers gathered. Tales of Earth's deadliest guardian spirits. The thing that bonded with humans who were too stubborn to die, too fierce to break, too determined to ever give up. It is a honey badger, he whispered. A combat manifestation. The child's will made flesh. The entity that had formed looked at the forgotten wrath. Then it looked at Lily. Then it looked back at the forgotten wrath. And it smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile that predators wear when they have finally found worthy prey. The forgotten wrath, cosmic horror that had driven the progenitors to flee reality itself, actually took a step back. What is this? What have you done, child? Lily hugged the honey-colored orb to her chest. I did not do anything. You were being mean. And my shirt says honey badgers do not care about mean things. The manifestation growled. It was not a sound. It was a promise. It was a threat. It was the inevitability of consequences catching up to cosmic arrogance. The forgotten wrath's multiple eyes widened. You bonded with the shard of persistence? Do you have any idea what that means? It means, Lily said cheerfully, that I have a new friend. And my new friend thinks you should apologize for trying to be scary. The manifestation cracked its knuckles. The sound echoed through 17 dimensions. This is not possible. I am eternal. I am inevitable. I am. The honey badger manifestation lunged. What happened next was difficult to describe in conventional terms. The laws of physics took a coffee break. Causality went out for cigarettes. Reality itself decided that discretion was the better part of valor and stopped paying attention. The forgotten wrath, ancient cosmic horror, found itself in a fight for its multi-dimensional existence against what amounted to weaponized stubbornness given form. And it was losing. Stop! Cease! I yield! The honey badger did not care about yielding. It cared about biting, clawing, and generally expressing its extreme displeasure with cosmic entities that threatened its bonded human. Lily watched the battle with the detached interest of a child watching clouds. Dad, I think we should probably go soon. This seems like grown-up stuff. Webb, who had pressed himself against a wall to avoid the reality-shredding combat, nodded frantically. Yes, leaving. Excellent idea. Lily, can you call off your friend? Oh, sure. Lily turned to the manifestation. Okay, that is enough. I think he is sorry now. The honey badger stopped mid-reality tear and looked at its bonded human. Then it looked at the forgotten wrath, who was now significantly less forgotten and far more terrified. The manifestation made a sound that was half growl, half satisfied grunt, and stepped back. The forgotten wrath, what remained of it, had compressed itself down to roughly the size of a basketball. It was making small, distressed noises. Please, I will return to the sphere. I will remain dormant. Just keep that thing away from me. Lily walked over and patted the compressed darkness gently. You just need to be nicer. Maybe make some friends instead of trying to destroy stuff. Yes, friends. I will make friends. So many friends. The darkness retreated back into the sphere, which slowly began to repair itself. The segments rotated back into position, the cracks sealed, and within moments, it looked exactly as it had before Lily touched the shard of persistence, except now it pulsed with a distinctly nervous energy. The honey badger manifestation looked at Vex Thoriel, then at Morrison, then at Dr. Vasquez, then at Ambassador Webb. Its expression made it very clear that if any of them had a problem with how events had transpired, it would be happy to discuss the matter. No one had any problems. Well, Dr. Vasquez said shakily. That was educational. Lily walked over to her father, still holding the honey-colored orb. The honey badger manifestation followed her like a particularly violent shadow. Can I keep it? Lily asked. The orb, I mean. It likes me. Webb looked at Vex Thoriel. The commander looked at the honey badger manifestation. The manifestation cracked its knuckles again. Of course she can keep it, Vex Thoriel said quickly. It is clearly bonded to her. Removing it would be inadvisable. Great, Lily beamed. I'm going to name it Sunny. Because it is yellow and warm. The Shard of Persistence, legendary artifact of the progenitors, ancient relic of unimaginable power, apparently did not object to being named Sunny. As they made their way out of the vault of whispered eternities, Morrison leaned over to Vex Thoriel and whispered, "So, how bad is the diplomatic incident going to be?" Vex Thoriel watched as Lily skipped ahead, the honey badger manifestation clearing a path through absolutely nothing because nothing was stupid enough to be in the way. "Lieutenant Morrison, I have 300 cycles of experience in galactic diplomacy. I have survived first contact scenarios, trade disputes, and 2 separate attempts at multi-species war. But this," he gestured at the small human child who had just traumatized a cosmic horror into submission, "this is going to require an entirely new category of report. What are you going to call it?" Humans happened. Behind them, deep within the vault, the sphere of eternal contemplation pulsed nervously. The forgotten wrath, no longer quite so forgotten and significantly more cautious, decided that perhaps retirement was not such a bad option after all. After all, nobody in their right mind argued with a honey badger, especially one bonded to a human child. The shuttle ride back to the diplomatic station was awkward in ways that transcended normal social discomfort. Vex Thoriel had experienced many uncomfortable silences in his career, but none quite compared to sitting across from a human child who was casually petting a reality-warping manifestation like it was a common house pet. "So," Ambassador Webb said, attempting to break the tension with characteristic human optimism, "that went better than expected." Morrison stared at him. "Sir, with all due respect, in what possible interpretation of events did that go well?" "Well, we are all alive. The vault is intact. Lily made a friend." Webb gestured at the honey badger manifestation, which was currently curled up next to Lily with its head in her lap. "And we learned that progenitor artifacts respond positively to childlike innocence. That thing," Dr. Vasquez said, her voice slightly higher than normal, "ripped through 7 layers of reinforced dimensional barriers. I watched it bite through a strand of condensed time." "Condensed time, Marcus. That should not even be possible." "But it did not hurt anyone," Lily pointed out, scratching behind the manifestation's ears, or where ears would be if it had a conventional anatomy. "Because you were all nice. Right, Badger?" The manifestation made a sound like grinding glaciers mixed with a satisfied purr. Vex Thoriel had been furiously typing on his communication pad for the past 15 minutes, trying to compose a report that would not get him immediately court-martialed or committed to a psychiatric facility. Possibly both. How did one explain to the Galactic Council that a human child had successfully weaponized stubborn determination into a physical guardian that could intimidate cosmic horrors? "Commander," Morrison said quietly, leaning closer, "what exactly is that shard thing she is holding?" "You called it the Shard of Persistence." Vex Thoriel's eye stalks drooped with exhaustion. "The texts are vague, but what little we know is concerning. The progenitors created it as a fail-safe, a way to ensure their will would continue even after they transcended physical form. It was meant to bond with the most determined, the most stubborn, the most absolutely unyielding consciousness it could find." He looked at Lily, who was now showing the honey badger manifestation, a picture book on her datapad. Apparently it found what it was looking for. In an 8-year-old girl. In a human 8-year-old girl. There is a significant difference. The shuttle pilot, a nervous trill named XX Mora, suddenly spoke through the intercom. "Commander, we have a problem. Station control is denying our docking request." "On what grounds?" Vex Thoriel clicked irritably. "They say, and I quote, 'We are radiating hostile intent signatures across 6 different dimensional frequencies. Also, someone named High Administrator Quartaxian wants to speak with you immediately. He sounds upset.'" Vex Thoriel's 3 hearts sank. Quartaxian was the station administrator, a being from the rigidly bureaucratic, hierarchical collective. He treated protocol violations the way humans treated deadly diseases, with extreme prejudice and extensive documentation. "Put him through." The communication screen flickered to life, showing Quartaxian's angular features. His facial plates were flushed orange. which in his species indicated either extreme anger or a serious digestive issue. Given the circumstances, probably both. Commander Vex Thoriel, explain to me why my security systems are reporting that your shuttle contains a Class Omega reality threat. That is technically accurate but misleading. Vex Thoriel began. Technically accurate? Commander, the threat assessment algorithms are having cascading failures trying to calculate the danger level. 3 of my best analysts have requested transfers to deep space observation posts. 1 tried to resign and join a monastery. We do not even have monasteries in the hierarchical collective. If I could explain, please do explain how a simple cultural exchange mission has resulted in my station going to maximum alert status. Please explain why my instruments are detecting something that registers as simultaneously a harmless child and an extinction-level event. Please. Explain, Commander. Lily looked up from her datapad. Is he the angry administrator? Dad, I can talk to him if you want. No. Everyone in the shuttle shouted simultaneously. The manifestation raised its head, and even through the communication screen, Quartaxian flinched. What? The administrator said. Slowly. Is that thing? That is Badger, Lily said cheerfully. He is my friend. He only hurts bad things. Define bad things. Things that try to hurt me or my family or people I like. Quartaxian's facial plates turned from orange to pale blue. And this, Badger, is coming to my station? Unless you would prefer we remain in space indefinitely, Ambassador Webb said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Though I should mention that would constitute a violation of the diplomatic immunity clauses in our agreement. Section 14, Paragraph 7. Denial of safe haven during official missions. Vex Thoriel watched with grudging admiration as Webb deployed bureaucracy as a weapon. Humans were terrifyingly good at that. Quartaxian made a sound like a deflating pressure vessel. Fine. But the child and her companion must remain in the quarantine section until proper safety protocols can be established. The quarantine section has no toys, Lily pointed out. Or snacks. Then we shall provide toys and snacks, and books, and my stuffed animals for my room. And I want the room to have windows because the vault was kind of dark and boring. The administrator's plates flickered through several colors that Vex Thoriel had never seen before. Yes. Fine. All of that. Just please, for the sake of all 17 member species, come aboard peacefully. The docking procedure was the smoothest Vex Thoriel had ever experienced. Usually, there were forms, inspections, secondary scans, and occasionally arguments about proper cargo manifesting. This time, the docking bay was completely empty, except for Administrator Quartaxian and a full security team that was maintaining a very respectful distance. Welcome back, Commander, Quartaxian said stiffly. Ambassador Webb, Dr. Vasquez, Lieutenant Morrison. He paused, looking at Lily. And guest. Hi, Lily waved. Sorry about the scary readings. Badger does not mean to be scary. He just is. The honey. Badger manifestation stepped off the shuttle, and immediately, every security officer took 3 steps backward. Their weapons were not drawn, but Vex Thoriel noticed several hands twitching near holsters. Please tell them not to do that, he said quietly to Morrison. If they draw weapons, I cannot guarantee the manifestation will not interpret it as a threat. Morrison nodded and made a quick hand signal. The security team relaxed marginally, or at least stopped looking like they were about to soil their uniforms. We have prepared accommodations, Quartaxian said, gesturing toward a secured corridor. As requested, the suite has windows, entertainment options, and a fully stocked nutrition center. We have also assigned a cultural liaison to ensure the young one has everything she needs. A small, nervous-looking being stepped forward. It was a Melly, a species known for their empathic abilities and gentle nature. The perfect choice for dealing with children. The Melly took one look at the honey badger manifestation and promptly fainted. Perhaps a different liaison, Quartaxian muttered. They were halfway to the quarantine section when alarms began blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor. and Vex Thoriel's communication pad lit up with priority alerts. "What now?" Webb asked. Quartaxian was reading his own device, his facial plates turning dark purple. "We have an incoming vessel, unscheduled, unannounced, and according to the identification codes." He looked up, and for the first time, Vex Thoriel saw genuine fear in the administrator's eyes. "It is a Korth warship." The temperature in the corridor seemed to drop. Everyone who served in galactic space knew about the Korth, aggressive, territorial, and absolutely convinced of their species' superiority. They had been kicked out of the Galactic Council twice for treaty violations, and had a habit of resolving disputes through violence first and questions never. "Why would the Korth be here, Doctor?" Vasquez asked. "I may have an idea," Vex Thoriel said grimly. "The Korth have been trying to access the Vault of Whispered Eternities for decades. The Council has repeatedly denied their requests. If they learned we brought humans there, they may see it as an opportunity to file a complaint. Or worse, use it as justification for a more aggressive stance." "How aggressive?" Morrison asked, his hand moving to his sidearm. Before Vex Thoriel could answer, the station shuddered. Not from impact, but from something docking. Hard. "They are forcing a boarding connection," Quartaxian said, his voice rising in pitch. "They are violating every protocol in the charter. This is grounds for immediate expulsion from—" "They do not care about expulsion," Vex Thoriel interrupted. "Commander, get everyone to the secure section. Now." But it was too late. The corridor entrance exploded inward. Not with explosives, but with brute force. 3 Korth warriors stepped through, each standing nearly 8 feet tall. Their exoskeletons were covered in ceremonial scars, and they carried plasma rifles that were definitely not approved for diplomatic station use. The lead warrior, distinguished by a crest of red markings, looked around the corridor until his eyes settled on Ambassador Webb. "Human, we have come for what you stole." "I am sorry," Webb said, his voice carefully neutral. "But I do not know what you mean. Do not play ignorant. We monitored your vessel. We know you entered the vault. We know you removed an artifact. By the ancient laws of salvage, anything removed from an unsealed vault becomes fair claim. We invoke our right to contest your possession." "That is not how salvage law works," Quartaxian protested weakly. "It is how Korth law works. And Korth law is enforced by Korth strength." The warrior raised his weapon, aiming it at Webb. "Surrender the artifact, or we will take it from your corpse." Lily, who had been standing quietly behind her father, stepped forward. "Excuse me, but that is very rude." The Korth warriors looked down at her. Then they started laughing. It was not a pleasant sound. "A child," the leader said. "The mighty humans send a child to negotiate. How pathetic." "I am not negotiating," Lily said. "I am telling you that you are being rude and mean. And I do not like that." The honey badger manifestation, which had been lounging against a wall, slowly stood up. The Korth stopped laughing. "What?" the lead warrior said slowly. "Is that?" "That is Badger," Lily explained patiently. "And he really does not like it when people point guns at my dad." The warrior made a dismissive sound. "A pet? You think a creature, no matter how strange, can stand against Korth warriors? We have conquered 17 systems. We have hunted the savage beasts of the death world Karthos. We fear nothing." The honey badger manifestation tilted its head, as if considering this statement. Then it smiled. "Oh no," Vex Thoriel whispered. What happened next lasted approximately 15 seconds, but would be discussed in military academies for the next century. The honey badger manifestation moved. Not fast, from a conventional perspective, but it moved with absolute inevitability, like gravity or entropy. It simply decided where it wanted to be, and reality agreed that yes, that seemed reasonable. The first warrior's weapon was torn from his hands and compressed into modern art. The second warrior attempted to fire but found his rifle had somehow been disassembled into 17 individual components. The third warrior, showing more wisdom than his companions, dropped his weapon and raised his hands in surrender. The lead warrior, to his credit, actually tried to fight. He swung a massive fist at the manifestation, putting all his considerable strength behind the blow. The manifestation caught the fist, then squeezed. The warrior made a sound like a hull breach and dropped to his knees. "You will," the manifestation said, speaking for the first time in a voice that sounded like grinding tectonic plates. "Apologize to the small human. Now." I apologize," the warrior gasped. "And you will," the manifestation continued. "Return to your ship. You will report to your superiors that the artifact has a guardian, and you will never, ever threaten this family again. Understood?" The warrior nodded frantically. His fellow warriors were already backing toward the destroyed entrance. "Good." The manifestation released him. "Now leave, while you still can." The Korth warriors fled. Actual, trained soldiers from one of the most aggressive species in known space fled from a manifestation bonded to an 8-year-old girl. The station's security footage would later show them running full speed back to their ship, which departed at maximum velocity without filing proper exit protocols. Silence filled the corridor. Finally, Dr. Vasquez spoke. "I need to update my dissertation." Significantly. Lily patted the manifestation. "Good job, Badger. You did not even have to bite anyone this time." "This time?" Morrison repeated. Quartaxian looked at Vex Thoriel. "Commander, I think we need to discuss appropriate housing arrangements. Something with reinforced walls, and its own postal code. Possibly on a different station." "Actually," Ambassador Webb said, "I think we should discuss something else entirely. Commander Vex Thoriel, what would the Galactic Council's reaction be if humanity offered to help protect sites like the Vault of Whispered Eternities?" Vex Thoriel's eye stalks perked up. "You mean?" "I mean that clearly. Ancient artifacts respond well to humans, particularly young humans. And as we have seen today, when properly bonded, these artifacts provide their own security. Very effective security. You are suggesting," Quartaxian said slowly, "that we station human children at vulnerable archaeological sites as guardians. I am suggesting a cultural exchange program with security benefits. Think about it. The Korth will not bother you anymore. Neither will anyone else with aggressive intentions. And the children get an excellent education in galactic history and culture." Vex Thoriel considered this. It was insane. Absolutely insane. It violated approximately 47 different protocols, and would require a complete rewrite of the diplomatic handbook. It was also brilliant. "I will need to present this to the Council," he said carefully. "But off the record? After today, I think they will be very receptive. Especially after I show them the security footage of 3 Korth warriors fleeing from a single Guardian manifestation." "Excellent," Webb said. "Lily, how would you feel about staying here for a while? Meeting other species, learning about different cultures, maybe visiting more ancient sites?" Lily's eyes lit up. "Can I bring my books? And my stuffed animals? And can Badger come?" The honey badger manifestation made its grinding purr sound. Again. "I do not think," Vex Thoriel said dryly, "that anyone would dare suggest otherwise." The next few hours were spent in extensive debriefings, report filing, and what humans called damage control. The story of what happened at the vault spread through the station at faster-than-light speeds, helped along by the fact that the Korth were broadcasting warnings about humans with reality-warping guardians. By the time Vex Thoriel finally collapsed in his quarters, his communication pad was filled with messages. Most were from the Council, demanding full reports. Several were from other species asking about human cultural exchange programs. 3 were from his insurance company, canceling his policy. But one message stood out. It was from his superior officer, Grand Admiral Thexcalion, and it contained only 2 sentences. "Did a human child really traumatize the Forgotten Wrath into retirement? Please tell me the reports are exaggerated." Vex Thoriel started typing his response, then stopped. How did one explain that no, the reports were not exaggerated? If anything, they were understatements. How did one convey that humanity had somehow produced a child so stubbornly determined that an ancient artifact designed to find the most persistent consciousness in the galaxy had bonded with her instantly? He deleted his draft and simply wrote, "Humans happened. Full report to follow. Requests significant increase in diplomatic hazard pay." In the quarantine section, which now resembled a comfortable apartment more than a holding cell, Lily was reading a bedtime story to the honey badger manifestation. Ambassador Webb watched from the doorway, smiling. "You know," Dr. Vasquez said, joining him, "when I signed up for this mission, I thought it would be routine. Cultural exchange, archaeological observation, maybe some boring diplomatic dinners. But instead I watched your daughter lecture a cosmic horror about manners and then traumatize 3/4 warriors. Marcus, do you realize what this means? Humans might have just changed the entire balance of power in galactic politics. All because your 8-year-old touched something she should not have." Webb chuckled. "That is basically Lily's approach to life. Touch things, ask questions later, make friends with reality-warping artifacts. Her mother is going to be furious that I let her keep it." "Let her? Marcus, I do not think anyone could take that shard away from her now. It is bonded. And more importantly, Badger would not allow it." As if hearing its name, the manifestation looked up from the book and gave them both a long, evaluating stare. Then it returned to listening to Lily read. "Do you think the Council will actually approve this Guardian program?" Vasquez asked. "I think," Webb said thoughtfully, "that after today, the Council will approve anything that keeps humanity happy and the Corth running scared. We just became the most valuable diplomatic asset in the galaxy. All because my daughter made a friend." Elsewhere on the station, in the high-security communication room, Vex Thoriel was giving his live report to the assembled Council members. 17 species, all staring at him through holographic projections, all wearing various expressions of disbelief. "Let me make sure I understand," Counselor Murthax said slowly. The child touched the shard of persistence. This awakened the forgotten wrath. The shard bonded with the child and manifested a guardian. Said guardian then intimidated a cosmic horror into peaceful retirement and defeated 3 Corth warriors without causing fatalities. "That is correct, Counselor. And now the humans are proposing a guardian program." "Also correct, Commander Vex Thoriel. I have served on this council for 70 cycles. I have witnessed first contact events, diplomatic crises, and 2 separate attempts to rewrite universal physical constants. But this," Murthax gestured at the report in front of her, "this is unprecedented. With respect, Counselor, dealing with humans usually is." A ripple of agreement passed through the council. The representative from the hierarchical collective, Quartaxian Superior, cleared his throat. "I motion that we approve a trial program. Limited scope, heavily monitored, and for the love of all 17 spheres, properly insured." "Seconded," came from multiple counselors simultaneously. "All in favor?" Every hologram raised their appendage, tentacle, or energy field in approval. "Motion carries," Murthax announced. "Commander Vex Thoriel, congratulations. You are now the lead coordinator for the Human Guardian Cultural Exchange Program. Try not to let them break any more cosmic horrors." Vex Thoriel's eye stalks drooped. "I will do my best, Counselor." As the council meeting ended and the holograms faded, Vex Thoriel sat alone in the communication room. He thought about his 300 cycles of service. He thought about all the missions, all the diplomatic incidents, all the careful negotiations, and he thought about an 8-year-old human child who had, in the span of a single afternoon, befriended an ancient artifact, defeated a cosmic horror with moral lectures, and turned 3 battle-hardened Corth warriors into running, screaming examples of why you never, ever threatened a human's family. "Humans happened," he muttered to himself. Then he started laughing. Because really, what else could you do? In the quarantine section, Lily finished her story and tucked Sunny, the shard of persistence, into bed next to her stuffed animals. The honey badger manifestation settled at the foot of her bed like a particularly aggressive guard dog. "Good night, Badger." Lily yawned. Tomorrow we get to meet more aliens. Dad says some of them have really cool abilities. The manifestation made a sound that might have been agreement. I hope they are nicer than the Korth guys. But if they are not, you will protect us. Right? The honey badger manifestation's eyes glowed briefly in the darkness. The message was clear. Anyone who tried to hurt Lily or her family would not live long enough to regret it. After all, honey badgers do not care about threats. They only care about protecting what is theirs. And the galaxy had just learned that lesson the hard way.